We've all had that feeling, right? That one scary story that just sticks with you for days, makes you check the locks an extra time. We always think it's the event itself that's so terrifying. But what if the real power isn't in the what happened, but in how it's told? That's exactly what we're going to dig into today, the craft of true terror.
So, what's the secret sauce? I mean, how does a simple, factual account of something strange become a story that burrows into your mind and just refuses to leave? Well, it turns out there's a very specific playbook for that.
And you know what? The answer is kind of simple. It's not really about the ghost or the monster or even the crime itself. It's all about the narrative technique. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to see how master storytellers can weaponize reality to create pure, unforgettable dread.
All right, so for our first case study, we're talking about making the world itself the monster. We're going to see how a storyteller can take something as ordinary as a snowstorm and twist it into an absolute waking nightmare. Just think about that phrase for a second. A tunnel-like atmosphere. A blizzard should be this massive, wide-open event, right? But a great storyteller, they flip that on its head. The blinding snow becomes walls, turning an infinite space into this terrifying, narrow corridor that you just can't escape.
So, what they're using here is a technique called a claustrophobic atmosphere. By using the environment to box a character in, the storyteller traps you, the audience, right there with them. The world gets smaller, the tension gets higher, and suddenly every little sound becomes a potential threat. So here's the basic recipe for this kind of environmental terror. Step 1. You gotta isolate your character, make them utterly and completely alone. Step 2. Use the environment itself, the blizzard, the fog, whatever, to build prison walls around them. But the final step, the masterstroke, is when you break the very rules of that reality you just established. Seeing a person in a storm is one thing, but a person who leaves no footprints? That's the exact moment a survival story becomes a horror story. That ambiguity, the sheer impossibility of it all, is so much more terrifying than any monster, because it suggests the world itself is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, let's switch gears for our next case study. We're moving from a physical, external threat to something purely psychological. And it's all done by making one simple, but really profound change in perspective.
See, the crucial shift here is all about perspective. Instead of putting us in the shoes of the victim, the storyteller puts us in the shoes of the witness. The horror isn't being inside the burning house, it's being the person on the 911 call, hearing everything, knowing exactly what's happening, and being completely powerless to stop it.
This is all about mastering narrative perspective. You can think of it as the camera angle of the story. By choosing to show us everything through the eyes of a helpless bystander, the author dials up a very specific and very potent kind of dread.
And make no mistake, this kind of dread is totally different. The horror of the victim is about survival. It's active. It's a physical fight. But the horror of the witness? That is the pure, distilled terror of powerlessness. You're not fighting to survive. You're just stuck, watching a catastrophe unfold in slow motion. So the key emotion this perspective creates is this kind of frantic, desperate energy. It's that feeling of running towards a disaster you know you can't prevent. It's the psychological torment of knowing what's happening but being completely unable to act.
And that really gets to the heart of it, right? That awful feeling of being one step behind. It's not the fear of what's happening to you. It's the unique horror of watching it happen to someone else, knowing you're just a moment too late. That feeling, that's what haunts you.
For our final case study, we're bringing the horror right to your front door. This technique moves away from a single big explosive event and instead focuses on a threat that never, ever goes away, the kind that might just live down the street. This is the horror of the local legend, the problem neighbor, the guy at the end of the block whose wife disappeared years ago. The real power here comes from what isn't known. The entire story is fueled by whispers over fences, rumors at the grocery store, and a deep suspicion that's never actually confirmed by facts.
And the tool they use to do this is so powerful. It's called the unresolved narrative. The storyteller deliberately refuses to solve the mystery for you. By denying us that neat conclusion, they force us to live with the same constant unease as the characters. The threat is never neutralized, so the fear can never truly end.
The formula is almost deceptively simple. You start with a place that should be safe, a quiet neighborhood.
You introduce a person with a dark cloud of rumor hanging around them. Then you make sure that rumor is never confirmed or denied. And crucially, you remind the audience that this person is still there. They still live in that house, right now.
So the goal here, it isn't to make you jump out of your seat. It's to leave you with this lasting, weird feeling. It's a subtle dread that makes you look at your own neighbors a little differently. It's a quiet, simmering kind of horror that slowly infects the everyday world.
So, we've looked at 3 different ways to craft horror, but you've probably noticed they all share some common DNA. Okay, let's put all the pieces together. Let's break down the secret formula for true terror.
Here it is, the 3 pillars of dread. First, you isolate your subject, whether they're trapped in a blizzard or just psychologically tormented as a witness. Second, you control the perspective, focusing on that feeling of powerlessness instead of a direct fight. And third, and this might be the most important one, you withhold the resolution. You never, ever give the audience the relief of a safe ending.
Because at the end of the day, the most powerful fear doesn't come from what we see, but from what we're forced to imagine. It's the footprints that aren't there, the disaster you're just one step behind, the crime that's never solved. The greatest horrors live in that ambiguity, in the questions that are left unanswered. So, the next time a story really gets under your skin, see if you can spot these techniques. You have the blueprint now, but the real question is, does knowing how the trick is done make it any less terrifying?